We'll get to it. Let's go. Ball in court. Let's go.
The 2025 state budget address in review. Spoiler, it's still really boring. Pritzker pays for a political poll, and the latest news in the city of Chicago. It's Friday, February 21st. My name is Dennis, and this is the Ben Joravsky Show's Oh, What a Week.
What they gonna say now?
Well, you're gonna find out. How's it going, Ben?
It's going well. I didn't know if I was ready to talk yet. I thought there might be more. We're still working out the kinks a little bit, ladies and gentlemen.
Good week for what? It's Friday, finally.
Yeah, it's Friday, finally.
It's going to warm up on Sunday, 40. What is it, summer?
Yes. May I open with a few opening remarks, and then we kick it to you, young man? I just want to say something here. Give a shout out.
Whose name's on that banner on the wall over there?
Oh, yeah. What banner? Oh, yeah. The one I left at the Sun-Times. Sorry, Brian. I'll come pick it up one of these days. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Z, Eric Zorn, Easy. Eric Zorn gave us a shout out in his newsletter last week. He was very happy that Dennis is back doing Oh, What a Week. It's one of his favorite weekly wrap-ups. So thank you very much, Eric, for the shout-out, bringing attention to our humble little podcast. And as we embark on this new venture, pretty soon we'll be passing the hat, Dennis. We'll be passing the hat. Get ready for that, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm hoping that we will continue for a long time. I'm independent from the Chicago Reader now. And so, yes, we're going to be leaning on our listeners to help finance this noble venture. So anyway, thank you very much, Eric. It was really nice of you to give us that shout out about how Dr. D is back and the show is going on.
Eric Zorn,
Doctor.
I didn't know you were such a big fan of this random white guy in McKinley Park. Very cool.
Well, if you recall, Dr. D, it was Eric who, when you went on, graduated from the Ben Joravsky Show the first time. I wonder if it's like a demotion. You're coming back. You had graduated.
I mean, we didn't talk about that. Get a little awkward, But
anyway, when I still kept doing Oh, What a Week, and it wasn't the same without Dennis. And so Eric just gently reminded me in an email, Ben, it's really not the same without Dennis. So I waited until Dennis came back, and he's back, and away we go.
All right, let's go ahead and do this here. We begin in Illinois, and someone just delivered their 2026 budget address.
I'm not afraid.
Whoa, he's not afraid, Ben. That's right. Our filthy rich Democratic Illinois Governor JB Pritzker shared our state's plans and aspirations with money. Whoa. Now, believe it or not, Ben, this is Pritzker's seventh budget address.
Oh,
where's the time gone?
I know. Where has it gone? 7
budget addresses. Do you remember all 7?
No, I'm counting down. I'm doing the countdown to make sure that math is correct. So he was elected in 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That's 5, 24. This is his 7th budget address. Wow. You're good. You're really good.
Well, I mean, he said it during the address.
He could have got it wrong. I'm just double checking.
I'm wondering if you watched it, but I'm starting to find out my answer.
Oh,
yeah, but it is his seventh budget address. So make no mistake that this governor knows how to address a state budget, all right?
Take it from an actual billionaire.
Whoa. They love billionaires. In fact, if there are 2 things that JB Pritzker knows like the back of his massive hand, it's an Illinois budget address, and of course, the second being an Illinois buffet address.
Oh, yeah, dang. That was a low one.
A low one. If it were Darren Bailey, you'd be all over it.
All right, come on. You mean the big feller?
Yeah, the big feller.
We also nicknamed Pritzker the big feller. Do you remember that? I got to come up with new nicknames. Anyway.
Now, we have some audio that we're going to play shortly, but about the actual budget. But during his address on Wednesday, the governor did that thing he's been doing a lot lately, needling our 45th and 47th president, one Donald Trump. And because these budget addresses are, like I said in the intro, kind of a snooze fest, let's just get right to the good stuff, okay? The following comes from Fox 32. And Ben, well, looks like we're taking an early flight to Paris, because the following comes from Fox 32's Paris Schutz. Hold on. We're in Paris. Illinois Governor JB Pritzker gave his annual budget address in Springfield on Wednesday, and largely overlooked was his plan to close a projected $3.2 billion budget gap, which is about 0.5% of the total spending plan. Well, you had to put that at the top of the story, didn't you there, Paris? My goodness. He's needling Pritzker. Instead, much of the focus shifted to the end of Pritzker's nearly hour-long joint budget and State of the State address, where he warned of threats from the Trump administration. He also compared attacks on federal prosecutors, spending programs on DEI initiatives to events leading up to the rise of Hitler and the Third Reich. We have audio from Wednesday's budget address. Like to hear it? Here it go.
We don't have kings in America, and I don't intend to bend the knee to one. If you think I'm overreacting and sounding the alarm too soon, consider this. It took the Nazis 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes to dismantle a constitutional republic. We don't have kings in America. Last week, our federal courts returned a verdict rightfully condemning the once unchecked power of a former Speaker of this House. Now, if you applauded that decision like I did, then I expect you to defend and applaud those same federal courts as they check this president in his quest for unrestrained power.
Yes, that was a Madigan burn.
Yeah, Michael Joseph Madigan. We talked about this last week at length. I have now officially proclaimed that I do not believe any corruption trials should be held during the Trump administration. If Eric Adams gets let off in New York, then because he kissed the Trump ring, then we should not have prosecution trials here in the city of Chicago. And Michael Joseph Madigan should not be going to prison at any time. It was overreach when Blago was sentenced for how many years, Dennis? 14 years. But definitely now we should have a moratorium on corruption trials. I absolutely believe that. If the only standard is whether Donald Trump likes you or appreciates you, or if you've proved to Donald Trump that you support him enough, that's the only standard as to whether you go to trial for corruption, then let's just do away with him for a while. So who was the guy? There's a guy, oh my goodness, that means the Emil Jones, the third case, D, that I'd spent all week. I was reading about in the Sun-Times, a case where they thought they had the goods on him for taking a bribe, allegedly taking a bribe in the form, kind of similar to lower level to what Blago, or excuse me, what Michael Madigan did with the ComEd case. Stop it, hold it, moratorium on that until after this is over. And by the way, who was applauding? Isn't that interesting? Like, who's going to applaud a statement? Just follow me in this, D. Who's going to applaud a statement in the budget address denouncing Madigan? You know, like those Democrats? Hello, guys. You were supporting Madigan. Isn't that right, D? Remember you reminded me the last week of our who's on the bus and who's not on the bus on Madigan. So are you applauding Madigan, your former House Speaker, the guy you supported up until the time he was indicted? Are you applauding his prosecution and his conviction? Or I can't believe it's the Republicans applauding that, because they got nothing to say about Eric Adams being let off in New York City for similar accusations. So I don't know who's applauding him in that, D. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who would applaud JB Pritzker at that moment when he points at Michael Madigan's conviction as an example of how the system works.
Wait, hold on. He's getting out. Get him out. Get him back in there. Get him back in there. Yeah, all right. There you go. Madigan was trying to get out.
Yeah.
He's found guilty last week on a few charges.
He was found guilty, and up until the time, D, I mean, I can't remember exactly when he finally stepped down because he didn't have the votes in the House to be Speaker, and then shortly thereafter he gave up his speech, gave up his full seat. But he had the wholehearted support of the Democrats, so why are they clapping? The guy they loved was convicted, and by the way, he was convicted of manipulating his power, using his power to get a deal with Commonwealth Edison that's bad for the consumers in Illinois. And probably a lot of Democrats voted for that deal, D. Of course, by the way, I don't know how many. I think every Republican voted for it. I'm not sure any Republican voted against it. What's their excuse for voting for the Commonwealth Edison deal? At least Madigan got a job or something out of it. So I don't know why anybody's applauding. There should have been silence when Pritzker said that, D, instead of, I would guess the Democrats were applauding because the ultimate point of the riff was that Trump is bad. I don't know why they were applauding. That's our speaker. That's their leader. That's the guy they were following. Just how many years ago was it? 6 years? Wow. No. Can't be 4 years. 5. All that time has gone by, man.
Dude, I'm 40. I'm 40.
Oh, my Lord.
41.
To quote Dennis's favorite rock star, time keeps on slipping into the future.
Yeah, man. I love Eric Clapton.
Who?
Eric Clapton's awesome, dude.
I don't think that was Eric Clapton. I think it's Steve Miller, but don't quote me.
All right. Well, about that, before we get into the 2026 budget proposal, the actual budget talk, we've got a new nickname for JB Pritzker here on the Ben Joravsky Show. No, it's nothing derogatory. All right. Ben actually titled this nickname. What's that nickname again, Ben?
Big feller?
JB Pritzker? You've been calling him something? Not big feller. No.
No. What is it? Oh, President Pritzker. Yeah.
There we go.
President Pritzker. No longer big feller. It's President Pritzker. Yes, will be our next president if they're still holding elections in 2028.
Well, I'm sure they will be. But so Pritzker for president. You're really, how you feeling about that? I'm going to ask you this every week, by the way. So just
I appreciate that because it's
a long ways away, and
it's a long ways away. You got to start early. It's, I mean, we're already into 2025, so the midterms, it's still early.
It seems like he's kind of planting the seeds. I'm trying, with these Trump jabs, he's been going every week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, just insulting Trump, roasting him. And so I mean, it's leading me to believe that, especially in this budget he announced it. Yeah, I mean, you may be onto something, Ben.
I absolutely believe that Pritzker is making his moves right now to position himself at the top of the list of Democratic candidates to run against Trump. There's no doubt in my mind about this. He was starting to do it during the summer of 2024. At that moment, in that period where it lasted for like 24 hours, I think, before the Democrats officially signed on to Kamala Harris as the nominee. If you recall, Pritzker was sort of positioning himself like, hey, if we have a referendum on this within the party itself, if we go to the convention with open, with nobody, if we go to Chicago and have an open convention where the delegates themselves decide who the nominee will be, I want to be considered. He was kind of positioning himself in that direction, and then of course he backed off and wholeheartedly supported Kamala Harris once that seemed inevitable. But I believe he revealed to the world that that's next on his list of ambitions, and this is he's determined, I think, to be our president. And I learned my lesson about the power of wealth in this country, not just the power of wealth as money buys you things and gets you things, D, but the power of wealth in the minds of Americans. They love billionaires. So I think that's an advantage that he has. I believe a lot of the votes that Donald Trump gets are because he's wealthy. And that's that bit that you play where Pritzker needling Trump. I'm a real billionaire. Remember that thing was going around that Trump wasn't a real billionaire. No one believed that he was a real billionaire. I think he's a real billionaire now, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, he's at least on paper, he's making so much money off his crypto ventures and his social media ventures. So he's definitely a billionaire. His deals with Saudis and golf. So I don't think there's any doubt that he's back to being a billionaire on paper. So I think that Pritzker has a huge advantage in that regard, and everything he says or does, as you pointed out, is directed at contrasting himself with Trump. And man, was that on full display on Tuesday, I think it was, when he gave the budget address. And then he compared the rise of Trump to the rise of Nazis. He contrasted the breakdown of democracy in Germany in the 30s to what we're seeing right here in this country right now. And I could tell you, D, because I live in the land of liberals. I live in the land of lefties. Well, no, let me back up. I live in the land of, in this case would be the land of liberals, and it was a popular message that he delivered. And so it resonates with voters. And yes, absolutely. By taking that shot at Pritzker taking that shot at Trump in a budget address, which is generally overlooked. You're right. Budget addresses are like broccoli. It's like stuff you got to eat. No one really wants to eat it except for the handful of people that like broccoli. Dennis happens to be one of them. He loves broccoli. And other than that, nobody likes broccoli. But it's like you got to eat it. So they send down guys like poor parachutes who gets flown down to Springfield as opposed to Paris, and has to sit through a budget address, a 1-hour oration about the details of a budget that's all concocted anyway because it's manufactured to look like it's balanced, even though we have no idea whether it's really balanced. It's based on projections. If we don't, it's a game that the governor plays with the budget and his budget address, and the mayor plays with the budget address of the city when he gives that in November or December, whatever that is. So these poor reporters have to schlep down and keep track of all these numbers and pretend as though they understand the numbers, D. The actual budget is 55 million. The shortfall is 3.3 billion.
Who's that an impression of?
I don't know.
The Ken Davis? Be nice.
No, gives Kenny D. Oh, no. The budget's 55 billion.
How long's it been since you did that one?
Oh, man. It's because it overlaps with Flannery. Here's Flannery. It's a little different. Flannery's a little different. Flannery go, the budget address is 55 billion. The shortfall is 3.2 billion. See, Flannery does the accentuation on the word billion, whereas Kenny D doesn't do that. Kenny D kind of flows with it, man. Kenny D's an old hippie, okay? He's flowing with it, man.
Well, I don't know about you, but I trust our billionaire, all right?
Take it from an actual billionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to push back, okay? So this what he said there at the budget address, comparing Trump to Hitler and Nazi, does that win over swing voters?
Okay, so here's the deal. So he hasn't gone so far as to compare Trump to Hitler himself. What he said was that our democracy is very fragile, and I completely concur with that. The safeguards that we have to protect the concept of a president who is not an emperor or a king, they're very fragile. And if Donald Trump decides that he's not going to follow the rulings of federal judges, then we've lost those safeguards. It'd be as though in the city of Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson just did whatever he wanted, didn't care what judges' rules, which I can't imagine. I talked about this earlier in the week. Even Daley, Mayor Daley, as powerful as he was, followed the rulings of federal judges. So the point he was making, which I thought was a very good point, was that we have a very fragile existence as a democracy. Now, this is the issue in terms of swing voters. Do swing voters care about that? Do swing voters care if we still have democracy in our country, D? And we were just talking, let me promote the David Ferris interview that will drop next week. David Ferris, a political scientist extraordinaire, was saying he's not certain that's the case anymore. And this is what scares him. This country elected Donald Trump in 2024, even though they knew about his connection with the January 6th insurrection, where he was trying to overturn in his whatever way he could the 2024 election. And to this day, he denies the validity of the 2020 election. But when he won in 2024, it's accurate, it's real. And so in his mind, whenever he loses, it can't be true. Whenever he wins, it shows the system works. And the people of this country, D, roughly 49% of it, voted with him on that. And so I don't know. Your question is a good one. Do people in this country care about democracy? Do they care about it strong enough to vote against? Well, will Donald Trump? If Donald Trump runs again next time, D, then we know there's no democracy because the Constitution says it prohibits him from running for a third term. So if he were to run again, then we know that truly democracy, the whole concept of a constitutional government, will be on the ballot. So right now, I can't answer that question definitively, Dennis. I can't say for certain that swing voters in suburban Milwaukee care whether democracy exists or the democracy they learned about in school, where there's a division of government, where you have the executive branch and the legislative branch and the judicial branch, and one acts as sort of a overseer of the other. And so that no one branch has more power than the other. I don't know if they care about that, D. You're absolutely correct. But I'll tell you one thing, Democratic voters with a capital D care about it. And so to get to be a candidate for president, he's got to win them over. That's who he's appealing to right now. So when he made that comment about our democracy being fragile, you didn't see any Republicans cheering him. But he doesn't care about Republican voters right now. He has to care about Democratic voters. You got to win the nomination before you get to run against Donnie.
Yeah. It'll get you to the dance, possibly, but based on the last election, may not get you the big grand prize, right? Any other thoughts before we get on to the actual budget talk here?
Yeah, I got to say this. I said this already with Ferris. I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I got to say this. So after he made that analogy to the state of democracy now to what it was in Germany in the 30s, and after he invoked the image of Nazis marching in the streets of Skokie, which is a very frightening image to people who remember that from back in whatever it was, 1979, 80, 81. By the way, it was alluded to in the Blues Brothers.
Oh, the second time bringing this one up, huh? You brought it up last week.
Yeah,
hey, Jinsky, we love you. Please just hang tight with us.
Yeah, hang tight. The Blues Brothers. In the Blues Brothers, there's a scene with Nazis in Marquette Park in the south side of Chicago. And that was roughly around, that movie was made roughly around the time the Nazis were threatening to march in Skokie. So he makes that reference. Republicans denounce him for making that reference, and they accuse him of being anti-Semitic, which is so bizarre since he is Jewish. In the aftermath of that, Steve Bannon gives a speech to conservative group. Steve Bannon, who is sort of the ideological great master of MAGA, and gives a speech, and he closes that speech by giving the Hitler salute. I'm like, well, are you trying to prove Pritzker right? And David Ferris was saying that in his opinion, that's Steve Bannon's way, showing his utter contempt for everybody who disagrees with him, and I'll do what I want to do. But I don't know, Republicans, MAGA, just a suggestion. If you don't want to give credence to Pritzker's notion that there is like a dangerous precedent that Trump may be following, you might not want to do the Nazi salute anymore. Just saying as a piece of advice.
Regardless, the governor's not afraid.
I'm not afraid.
See? All right, now let's get to the actual budget talk here. In his hour-long budget address, my God, these things are boring. Pritzker started by laying out his $55.2 billion proposal that funds schools and pension contribution, but limits spending. Pritzker also outlined proposals to lower prescription drug costs, cancel medical debt for Illinois residents, boost public school funding by the required $350 million, reduce the number of township governments, and hey, I like this one, ban cell phones and screens in classrooms. What do you think about that one, Ben?
Well, that's interesting. I was just reading and thinking about that. I was going to ask you what you thought about that. You kind of like that one. Well, you have a kid. Dennis is a dad now, and so he may view the world differently than he did when he was young, Dr. D, back in the days. And when you get a kid, you have a different attitude about a lot of things. You become more, I don't know, conservative in some ways, not conservative politically so much. And you don't want to think that your kid is going to school and not paying attention. You know, you want to believe that your kid is paying attention with the teachers, like math class. You're not texting your friend Billy Bob about the dance or whatever they're texting about. And so I kind of was, you know, I'm reading the articles about the banning of phones, and he's not like he wouldn't. It's like he's not going to say we're going to collect your phones when you come in the door. It's you're not allowed to use the phones while you're in a classroom. So part of me is like, man, one more thing a teacher's got to worry about, D. You know what I'm saying? It's hard enough being got 30 kids in a classroom, and now all of a sudden, Billy Bob, put that phone away. You know, sometimes from my days as a teacher, D, which were total disaster because I was really bad at it. So I would have kids in the classroom who would be, let's say, cheating on the spelling test. Like this one kid, he thought he was slick. He had the dick. I'm sorry, I'm having the memory, the flashback. He had the dictionary on the floor.
Hell yeah, that's a good move. That's good.
And I was a rookie teacher, student teacher, so I took it away from him. And then I thought about it later and go, what difference does it make? He's showing some initiative. The kid is like, he cares
you're
enough.
a bad teacher. Yeah, you're not good at this. What difference does it make?
I know. I was not meant to be a teacher. It was hard. Let me tell you something. Being a teacher is hard. Anybody, if you're like, have any claim of legitimacy and you want to be a legitimate teacher, it's hard. So you got to worry about Billy Bob with the dictionary out. So it's,
I mean,
one more thing for a teacher to do is take away the phones. Go ahead.
I mean, nowadays, if you see someone cheating like that with dictionary on the floor, it's like, oh, that's old school. That's cool. You know, your phone has all the answers.
No, the phone has every answer. You're right. So it's like, why learn anything? Oh, it's just on the phone. I'll be a complete idiot and just Google it. You know, and so I'm all over the map with this one, D. I'm sorry. I'm just like, it's kind of a burdensome thing for the teacher. On the other hand, the kids aren't learning anything if they just look at stuff up on the internet. The brain is not developing in a way. They're not learning algebra. They're not learning how to spell sound words out. I don't know. Is that obsolete? You know what I'm saying, D? So, and my kids are all grown, so I don't have to worry about it. Oh, I have grandkids. So I got to worry about grandkids. I'm worried about your kid, you know. So, all right, I'll stay. The flag blows this way. Yeah. Outlaw those cell phones. By the way, and who am I? Last night, who am I to talk? Okay. Now, here's the hypocrite of me, D. Last night, I've already mentioned this in the David Fair Show, had a great get together with some old baby boomer friends. We were gathered around and we're sharing dinner together and we're chatting about this, that, and the other thing. D, don't tell anybody. But every now and then, like every 5 minutes, I snuck my cell phone out of my pocket and looked up the score of the Bulls game. Yes, I did it, D.
Coolest boomer in the house.
And then the guy next to me, Peter, a lot of love, Peter, love you dearly. I would say, because he was sitting next to me, he could see what I was doing. I go, all right, Peter, if you insist, I'll look up the Bulls score. He goes, I didn't even ask for it. Shut up, Peter. There we go. So anyway, who am I, D? Don't do like me, scholars, okay? Put your phones away. Don't look up Bulls scores.
All right, now let's hear a bit of Pritzker talking about the state budget on Wednesday.
I believe strongly that we must continue our firm commitment to building up the rainy day fund, new funding for public schools.
Actually, let's go ahead and stop. That's very boring. We're just going to move on, okay?
Wait a minute. Don't you want to hear more of the budget?
No, not at all. Not at all.
No one cares about the budget. And by the way, I'm going to absolve all of you people in the state of Illinois from even remotely feeling guilty about this, because the entire budget process is a freaking scam. Okay? So I'm just telling you, I've been saying that forever and writing that forever. It's a show. It's a production. They don't know if the budget's balanced. They're just projecting that it's balanced.
All right, well, let's listen to it, I guess.
Investing in economic growth and jobs and improving much needed services.
Huh? You say something? What remains unclear?
Yes.
Mayor Schutz said it, all right? He mentioned it earlier at the top.
Yeah.
for some reason, Needle and Pritzker. How will the state close that $3.2 billion budget gap? Ben, what's the answer? How do you do it, budget guy? Come
You
on.
raise taxes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yes, you raise taxes. That's how you do it. Or, here you go, drastic cuts. And I mean drastic cuts in services, the kind nobody really wants, by the way. So a combination thereof, that's how you, or you pretend it doesn't exist. And this is how they generally do it, D. They go, we have a $3.2 billion gap, but we project an influx of dollars from, I don't know, the Tax Dr. D Fund, which is a tax of podcasters, and which I just made up. Oh. And you just project a huge influx of money. We're projecting a huge influx of money on gambling revenues.
Kind of sounds like it's lying. Yeah. Sounds like lying, right?
Here's my Larry David imitation, which is kind of similar to my Kenny Davis imitation. Would you call it lying?
Oh, and we have to mention too, talking about that potential run in 2028 for president, this budget address got the attention of national news. Pritzker's combined State of the State and budget address Wednesday was so powerful, in fact, that MSNBC's Rachel Maddow opened her show playing 3 minutes of it. Maddow called it inspirational.
Okay, so let me just say this about that. I can guarantee, I did not see it, D. I did not see what she said, but I guarantee you that the part of the budget address that she featured on her show was not, repeat, not the part where he talked about closing the $3 billion gap. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, it wasn't this part.
To working families and to the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
I believe strongly that we must continue our firm commitment to building up the rainy day fund.
Yeah, no rainy day fund from the I'm assuming.
Yeah, right. She was concentrating on the part of his budget speech, which came at the end, where he talked about the fragility of democracy and how if we didn't watch it, we were heading down the path that Germany headed down in the 1930s. That is the part that she concentrated on, and that's why I said it was a success in terms of a political statement. It was a success at putting him further in the spotlight. It was a success at further cementing his support among liberal Democrats, the kind of people who watch the Rachel Maddow show. So absolutely, he is running for president. And right now, I don't know who else I could say is definitively running for president in the Democratic side, D, right at this time. I mean, I know there's names that are kicked around, but I don't see anybody as openly running for president as much as JB Pritzker is. Okay. That's why I say he's President Pritzker.
I like him as a candidate. I think it'd be awesome. I just really feel like he's putting himself in a lane a little early. Rachel Maddow not winning over those swing voters. You know what I mean? So it's kind of worried at the moment.
Yeah. Well, JB, I know you're a listener of this show and you take very seriously the advice that I give you and that Dr. D gives you. And I'm sure he's going to proceed anyway, D.
Wait, you listening?
Yeah, he's listening.
Oh my God. Sorry about that buffet joke earlier.
Yeah. I try to shield him, JB. I try to. No, don't go down there. But no, he had to go down there. Okay.
I'm not afraid.
Oh, he's not afraid. So
he's
it's okay.
not afraid. I tried to stop him. I tried.
And if you need even more proof that this guy is running for president, a new poll was released this week. A new poll paid for by the governor himself, and a new poll showing that Illinois voters strongly disapprove of the president of these United States. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times, their many annoying paywalls, and Tina Sfondelis. Ben, where did all these paywalls come from the Sun-Times?
I don't know, but the Sun-Times, you've lost your mind with those paywalls. Oh my God. And then they have it's Bright One. You know I love you. I subscribe to you, D. I'll prove it one more time. There you go. Okay. Front page new. Oh, D, I have to share this with you. I'm sorry. I know we're on a tangent here, but I have to share this with you. So back in the day, Dennis and I would do this thing. We would contrast Tribune headlines to Sun-Times headlines.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was more of a Tribune guy because they were just totally boring. And I was more of a Sun-Times guy because they try to liven them up with puns.
You have some headlines for us?
Yes. Here we go. You ready?
Yes. Let's hear it.
There we go. Okay. So here's the headline in my beloved Bright One, home delivered as always, no paywall. I already paid for it. But even though I subscribe to the Sun-Times, I get the same paywalls. Sun-Times, I subscribe. Okay, stop throwing me paywalls. All right, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. I subscribe too. Why am I getting these?
I know. They're insane. The Sun-Times is insane. And I'll go one step further, D. I know we're in a tangent within a tangent within a tangent. But follow me on this. The Bright One and WBEZ are owned by the same combine. If you, and they do articles, joint articles, a lot of times like Sarah Carpenter, Issa do a joint story together about the Board of Education. If you look the story up on NPR, they give you the story without a paywall.
Yeah.
It's easy to read. It's easy to follow. It's easy to send to somebody else. If you look it up on my beloved Bright One, home delivered every day, the same freaking story with a paywall. I already subscribed, Bright One. I think the Bright One kind of wants to go out of business, the people who are running it. Just saying it.
I don't know many things, but I definitely know how to not get back on the Sun-Times. I know that. And that's with this talk that we're having.
All right. Yeah, that's true. All right, here we go. Here's the headline in the Bright One. Should classrooms be no phone zones? And then the subhead. While many agree that Pritzker's plan to make all Illinois public and charter school classes largely phone-free will reduce distractions, some parents and students have their hang-ups.
Sun-Times.
Bright One, come on.
What are you doing?
Come on, Bright One.
I said it years ago. Guys, you with these puns, you get trapped in a corner where he's got to come up with a pun every day, and you're still doing it.
It's like
stick to basics, stick to boring. Be like the Tribune, all right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now you were asking about the poll. Now, how about that? That was good.
Well, I haven't even mentioned the poll yet. So let's talk about this poll.
Okay. Right.
Like I said, the following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Tina Svandela. So that means, we're leaving Paris. Ben, hang on. Back to Chicago. Holy crap, it's cold.
I love the Paris to Paris joke. I think we'll keep continuing that for the next until the end of the show, D. Until the end of the show.
A new Illinois poll commissioned by Democratic Governor JB Pritzker finds Donald Trump and his cost-cutting czar, Elon Musk's early administration actions aren't exactly popular. A global strategy group poll of 800. Way to go. The last poll we read was 798. Guys, come on.
They found two other people.
Yeah. They polled a group of 800 likely 2026 voters, and they conducted this February 5th until February 9th. They found more than 50% of those surveyed called Trump's actions extremely concerning. Now, let's learn a little bit about the poll before we get into it here, because it turns out in 2025, literally all polls are trash. But you can actually learn a little more, by looking into the poll and seeing the questions they ask and so forth. So Global Strategy Group conducted a survey, like we said, of 800 likely voters. Where do these voters live? Not sure. Doesn't say. But we do have a well-worded sentence saying that care has been taken to ensure the geographic, political, and demographic divisions of the population of likely voters are properly represented. Well, thank God they said that, Ben.
Yeah.
I feel fine now. Translation. Go ahead.
I have a lot to say about this poll. Number one.
We haven't read the results yet. Would you want to read the
results? Go ahead. I'll let you read the results and then I'll riff. Go ahead.
All right. Let's focus, Ben. Focus. All right.
For 10 trivia points, who are you imitating? Go.
Oh, that's Bruce Rauner.
Very good. And who is he saying to?
Amanda Zernecki?
Damn. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, your dork is rubbed off on me a little bit. Oh, well, there's got to be a better way to say that. Okay.
I don't know.
Here we go. All right.
Okay, yeah.
Question. Do you view President Donald Trump favorably?
No.
Somewhat. Okay, not you. We're talking about straight to first question again. First question. Do you view President Donald Trump favorably, somewhat unfavorably, or very unfavorably? The results: 56% of potential voters polled view Trump unfavorably, including 49% who held unfavorable opinions, leaving 7% somewhat unfavorably. Ben, your thoughts?
Well, so then wait, I'm not good at math. Because I was on my cell phone, which we didn't have back in the day. I was doing the equivalent of paying attention to my cell phone while math was going on. So what percent view him favorably according to this poll?
Favorably.
Yeah. I think it's 36% or something like that.
It's 56% potential voters unfavorable, including 49% who held very unfavorable opinions, leaving 7% somewhat unfavorably.
Yeah, they don't.
Let me look here. I'll check it and see.
All right.
1 second
This whole setup here.
42 for Donald Trump.
Okay, favorable, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So this poll, in my humble opinion, is good news for Donnie, and I'll tell you why I feel that way. Wait, I feel that it's good news for Donnie because if you take a look, as I did extensive research and preparation for this particular conversation. If you took a look at what Donnie got in the state of Illinois in the terms of the percentage of vote, in 2016, when he was running against Hillary Clinton, he got approximately 38.3% of the vote. In 2020, when he was running against Joe Biden, he got approximately 40% of the vote. In the last election, 2024, when he was running against Kamala Harris, he got 43.5% of the vote. All right, D? He went from 38% of the vote to 43%. So his popularity went up. Okay? All right? At least in terms of people who voted for him. Now, I know what you're going to say. I know exactly how your brain works. And as astute student of Illinois politics, you're going to go, Ben, what you're overlooking is that in 2016, when he ran against Hillary Clinton, there was a relatively popular libertarian candidate named Gary Johnson on the ballot who took 4% of the vote. So, Ben, if you're going to be accurate, you should add that 4% to Donald Trump's 38%. And I say, you're right, Dennis. You convinced me.
How'd you know I was going to say that?
Because if I could reach your mind low. So basically, he's at 42% in Illinois that likes him, and he's 42% in this poll. And this is in the face of everything all the lunacy he's done in the first month. So I could argue that this poll is good news for Donnie. I could also argue, if I had to, because, in debate, you have to add both sides, that it's pretty obvious to me that the anti-Trump sentiments are as strong as the pro-Trump sentiments. And you're right when you said what you said, that swing vote, the ones who aren't really paying attention, the ones who don't feel strongly one way or the other, the ones who are like, can we all get along? Oh, God.
The majority of America.
I wouldn't say they're the majority. I'd say they were definitely a minority, because I would say that based on this poll in the state of Illinois, it's like 49% cannot stand Donnie Trump. 42% love him. So hold on, D, while I do the math. 49 and 42 is 91. That leaves 9%. Hold on, carry the one. So that leaves 9% are swing voters. So I think it's as much as I don't believe polls that candidates themselves put out, I think this one is more or less in the ballpark for where the last elections. Now, by the way, you said something to me that was very interesting before the show. You said to me that I wonder what the poll in Madison County is. And for folks who don't know, Dennis is from Madison County. Doesn't live there anymore. He's the pride and joy of McKinley Park.
Here comes that Alton comment.
I'll have you know that your hometown of Alton,
from God,
you're now trying to disassociate yourself with for some reason. I do not know why. They voted for Kamala Harris. I was stunned when I saw that.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, God, I love you, Alton. We should do a remote show in Alton sometime. Of course, it would require me to leave my house.
40 seconds in, you're getting called a pussy. Guarantee it.
Remember the guy who called you a pussy? But then it turned out to be a A
Well,
story
yeah.
behind the story. Can
Well,
you tell?
me and my brother went into the gas station during COVID,
Yeah.
and I was living in the city, he's living downstate, and we both went into the gas station, and I said, "Oh, I forgot to put on my mask," and I'm wearing my mask, and then someone called me a pussy, because I had my mask on. Turns out it was my brother.
Yeah. And so for the longest time, this is how inaccurate political observers could be. I would be, when we would be riffing, I'd go, the anti-mask sentiment is so strong that in Alton, Illinois, Dennis got called a pussy for wearing a mask. And it turns out it was his brother. It doesn't really count. His brother would have called him a pussy even if he wasn't wearing a mask.
I mean, yeah, even if it weren't COVID,
Yeah, it would just would have said, is he your older or younger brother?
younger brother, or no, he's my older brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, of course, he's called you worse down through the years. So anyway, just longtime listeners to the show, please disregard all the comments we've made in the past about Altonians and their attitudes about politics based on that one incident, because it was his brother. There we go. Sorry, D.
Hey, let's keep talking about this poll, huh? Up next, it's Elon Musk. Elon Musk, is he somewhat unfavorable, favorable, or very unfavorable to Illinois? The results, according to these potential 800 voters who may or may not all live in Northern Illinois, they won't tell us. Elon Musk is 56% unfavorable, with 50% dubbing their views very unfavorable.
Wow, Donnie's, hey, things are looking up for Donnie. He's got a better rating than Trump, than Musk does.
The guy's
49 to
got a
50.
weird vibe. He's a very weird, awkward guy. You know what I mean? He doesn't have that going good for him there. Elon
Strange
Musk.
human being. Very strange human being. He's got a lot of power. Oh, God, help us all. I could tell you this right now, T, as to your point about, as a good one, where you take the poll matters. So if this poll were just Northern Illinois, Democrats would be in a lot of trouble. Okay, I'm just going to say, if this was just Cook County, we're in a heap of trouble. If it's only 56%, for instance, at the aforementioned party I went to last night, or gathering I went to last night, there were 8 boomers in that room, and I could tell you right now, of those 8 boomers in the room, the percentage of people who had an unfavorable view of Donald Trump was, get ready for this, ladies and gentlemen, 100%. So Pritzker should have just done a poll of that gathering, and he would be like, oh my God, 100% of the people are against Donald Trump.
Oh, remember that thing that one boomer said at that party you were talking about?
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. Make sure the kids hear words.
That was funny.
Yeah, it was funny. By the way, in defense of boomers, that guy that you just played is not a boomer. Of course, our former president, Joe Biden, and he was young, relatively speaking, D, when he gave those remarks. As you recall, it was 2019. Okay, no, it's Mike Flannery. It was in 2019 that he gave those remarks at the debate. Great debate. Play. Hey, it's kind of similar, D. He was trying to address the same issues that you're talking about with phones for kids. Kids can't read because they're so distracted.
Oh, he was on to something.
He was on it, Big Joey. He was on this. He's ahead of his time. Play the record.
Who said that?
Yes.
All right, now to the news in the city of Chicago. That was our poll, by the way. That's the news on polls. Now to the news in the city of Chicago. Who will be the next mayor of the city of Chicago? Now, I don't blame you at all if you followed up my question with who cares? Because, my God, this election isn't happening until 2027. But the time we have leading up to this 2027 Chicago mayoral election, we've decided to help inform the citizens of this city and put a laser-like focus on one specific candidate.
That's correct.
We couldn't have done this without the help of one publication. Shout out to Chicago Magazine. Now, not only did they allow me to cheat through their paywall, God bless them. Can't crack that Sun-Times one. That's tough.
Oh, God.
But Chicago Magazine also put out a piece a couple of weeks back titled The Next Mayor. And needless to say, but I think Chicago Magazine is ready for a new person to be in charge of the city. I don't know. You tell me. People, it is time for a 2027 Chicago Mayoral Candidate Spotlight.
This is your 2027 Chicago Mayoral Candidate Spotlight. Let's go, Brandon.
Oh my God, that is
talking about
Big Lebowski. You were channeling your inner Jeff Bridges there. Very Jeff Bridgian.
The announcer guy. We paid him. That I don't think he was talking about Brandon Johnson, by the way.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's read the piece here from Chicago Magazine. The article reads, has there ever been a Chicago mayor as unpopular as Brandon Johnson? Tell us how you really feel, Chicago Magazine. A new poll has his favorability rating at a cringeworthy 14%. As political consultant Tom Bowen been, you know that guy? Tom Bowen?
I know Big Tommy Bowen.
You know him?
I mean, know him. I've interviewed him, so I know who he is, but it's not like he definitely was not at that gathering I was at last night of the Boomers.
Yeah.
So he's not that, but I know who he is.
Tell me what you think of this quote here. As he puts it, this mayor is so weakened by his own hand that 8 out of 10 Chicagoans would rather get punched in the face than reelect him. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, he's probably going to be working for one of the candidates who runs against him if he isn't already working. So I would say that there's even less credibility to his remarks than in JB Pritzker's poll. Okay, if that's possible. All right. So what do you say? You take it with a grain or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of salt.
All right. Well, Chicago Magazine went on to say, ouch, about the punching comment.
Even did they say ouch?
Yeah,
did they really say ouch?
Ouch? They put
I
out.
give them credit. That's actually pretty funny.
Ouch. Even
ouch.
Chicago
Magazine, letting that freak flag fly.
2 years away, that kind of sentiment has already fueled early jockeying for who might succeed Brandon Johnson. Like we said, Chicago Magazine went and ranked 11, speculated about contenders for mayor. Once again, guys, if you just tuned in, this is a 2027 Chicago Mayoral Candidate Spotlight.
This is your 2027 Chicago Mayoral Candidate Spotlight.
Hell yeah.
Let's go, Brandon.
Again, he's not talking about Brandon Johnson, I don't think.
Let's go, Brandon. I'm for Brandon. Okay, there we go. I'm part of the 14%, D.
All right. So today on the Ben Joravsky Show, we highlight Chicago mayoral hopeful to some, maybe not to many. I don't know. Who knows? Susana Mendoza. She is our Illinois controller. Ben, I know you had a lot to say about Susana Mendoza, but let's just do a quick little breakdown here of our Illinois controller. First little fact about Susana Mendoza. She's 52 years old. Did you know that, Ben?
Let me do the math. Yes, she graduated from high school in 1990. So it would make her 52, or if she was born in January or early February, D, she would be 53.
Oh, my head hurts. Okay, now to the next little fact about Susana Mendoza. Oh, this is nice. Wonderful sounding here. Ooh. Susanna lives in Portage Park. Did you know that, Ben?
Yes, I did know that. She lives in Portage Park, which is not far from where I live, as a matter of fact. So yes, she lives in Portage. She lives on the northwest side, D, but this is in her adult life. Her her earlier adult life, she lived on the south. She lived near where you live, D. She lived near where you live.
For 10 trivia points, where did Susana Mendoza go to high school?
Susana Mendoza is a graduate, a 1990 graduate of Bolingbrook High School. And now Bolingbrook is a suburb of Chicago. And your folks are saying, but wait a minute, I thought she was a Chicago politician. Great question, D. I love your questions. She, I believe, was born in Chicago and lived for a little while in Little Village. And then her family moved to Bolingbrook, where she excelled in soccer. Or if Mike Flannery were doing this, she excelled in soccer. And she was did you know she was an outstanding soccer player? Do you remember the commercials? She did.
Talking about when I have written here. But hey, listen.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know.
That's okay. The guy
I apologize.
yeah, he's got the gift of gab, ladies and gentlemen. Bolingbrook. Is that your final answer, Ben? Is that your final
Yeah. Bolingbrook High School, yes.
Says Bolingbrook High School, ladies and gentlemen. Ben Joravsky is.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yes, rimming good.
Where she earned all state and all Midwest honors in varsity soccer. As she became the first female to ever make it onto the Bolingbrook High School Wall of Fame. There you go. But you didn't know that?
I did not know that. I did not know that. I did not know that. Wow.
Let's see here. It says here she was the first woman elected as city clerk. And before city clerk, Susanna Mendoza proudly served 6 terms as a Democratic member of the Illinois House of Representatives. Been from what years? My how the tables have turned here. Ooh.
Yeah. I would say she served from 2001 to 2000 and well, she got elected in 2011. So she stepped down in 2011.
Our host, the dork.
That's correct.
That's correct.
I got it right.
My
That's
God.
amazing.
Oh boy.
I swear to God, D, that was just pure guessing right there.
Huge nerd. Still got it, Ben. Still got it.
Yeah.
Let's see. It says here, elected in 2000 as the youngest member of the 92nd Illinois General Assembly, she was publicly recognized for her leadership and legislation on social services, education, law enforcement, job creation, and animal welfare. I think that's about all we need to know. Ben, your thoughts? Susanna Mendoza, 2027 Chicago mayor. How does that sound?
All right. So, wow, a lot to riff on here. So, I've kind of had like an evolving attitude towards Susanna Mendoza. And at the outset, she was a state rep from the southwest side, from Dennis Country. We'll call it Dennis Country because he lives there now. And she was a big ally of Mayor Daley, House Speaker Michael Joseph Madigan, and various leaders of something called the Hispanic Democratic Organization, HDO. And I was an old lefty on the north side, and all these three entities, I was engaged essentially in writing critical columns about. So I was not a fan of Susanna Mendoza based on where she came from and sort of her worldview. And pretty much every single political position she took in the city of Chicago, I was against. And you could just go back and read the columns, the track record. And then I was not a fan of her when she was the city clerk during the Rahm years. Then she got elected state controller, and she took, Susanna, you know I love you for this. She took the strong stand against Rauner, and she was unafraid to fight Rauner. Governor Rauner, who's trying to destroy collective bargaining rights in the state of Illinois, who is trying to hold up budgets. You talk about budgets. This guy wouldn't even have a budget in order to get the Democrats to capitulate on union rights. And Susanna Mendoza took the tough stand, and I know my lefty friends hate it when I say it, but she did. And she was a regular on the show I had on that radio station that I can't remember the name of because they fired me. And she would come on the show, and Dennis and I would. Dennis was the one who came up with this name, the Mendoza Report. She was a regular on that show.
Yeah, it was WCPT 820. Well, where facts matter, and a matter of fact, got fired there. So.
Yeah, as a matter, that's good, D. That's actually funny. As a matter of fact, you were fired. Then when I got fired, they promoted. They said, "D, hey, Dennis, we'll give you a promotion."
Yeah, right. Hey, bro, you want to do this? You want to do it? You want your own show, the Bald Dumb Guy show? Like, I don't think I'm gonna get my show.
Yeah, God bless him, man. Guy is a good friend. So anyway, yeah, so she would come on the show, trash around her, and I'd be cheering her on. And now she wants to be mayor of the city of Chicago against Brandon Johnson. And I've got a lot of ambivalence about this. As I said, I'm one of the 14% in the city of Chicago that still likes Brandon Johnson. I'm probably the only North Sider that is a good thing to say about Brandon Johnson. Every time I say that, some North Sider will text me, "Oh, I like him." Benji the bookie, I like him. Matt in West Rudders Park, I like him. Yeah, Never you guys say it publicly, but whatever. So, you know, I see the game she's playing and how she's trying to use the city's financial situation, which I could talk about endlessly. I'll hold back to just sort of continue to attack Johnson and position herself as the alternative. And I don't know, D. I like when I hear this stuff, I'm reminded of the Susana Mendoza that was a Madigan supporter back in the day, and less of Susana Mendoza as a the woman who stood up to Rauner. That's how I see it. So Susana Mendoza, if you're listening, I know you probably are because you love Dr. D. Come back to the show. We'll have a conversation about it, and I'll ask you questions about the budget games that Chicago mayors played while you were supporting those mayors. Why this mayor is any different in these budget games, and how you would be any different in dealing with the budget constraints that the city of Chicago has, which are tremendous because we can't find any revenue to fund government because I guess all taxes are bad, so we can't raise any tax. So that's kind of how I view it, D.
Well, now, if you recall, she ran for mayor back in 2019.
I do recall that.
So was it 2019 or was that the year?
2019 was the year.
2019, finishing a disappointing. Let's see, disappointing for her fifth. Yeah, she finished fifth. But that was at the height of the Ed Burke scandal, which tainted anyone in his vicinity. Mendoza was in that vicinity. A frequent critic of the mayor on X, she has applauded alderpersons for standing up to him and needled Johnson's administration for showing zero fiscal discipline, as you said.
Yeah, well, okay, so I didn't say that. Zero fiscal discipline. I don't know. That probably is from the Chicago Magazine article, which is their bias. I don't have a bias. The reality is that the city of Chicago is lying to its citizens. And they're pretending that they can fund the government without revenues, without taxes, without money. And so they try to pretend as though there's some magic solution out there that like Susana Mendoza has that Brandon Johnson doesn't have, or Alexei Giannoulis has that Brandon Johnson doesn't have, or some writer for Chicago Magazine has that Brandon Johnson does. And none of them have it. So that's the fraud. Now, D, before you move on, and ladies and gentlemen, this is coming out of left field. He doesn't know this was coming. This will test. This will be an early Alzheimer's test for Dr. D.
Oh, this is great. I'm going to have a great weekend, guys. If I fail, I mean, this is just going to be an awesome weekend.
This is hard, though. So if there's really no pass or fail here, okay? I was always an easy teacher. I let the kid freaking cheat with his dictionary, okay?
Oh, my God.
I go, God, that was creative. Go ahead. Knock yourself. You want an A? Give yourself an A.
Hey, who's your teacher, honey? Oh, I got Mr. Joravsky. Oh, good Lord. We're getting you out of that class right now.
All right, here you go. So you're correct when you say Susana Mendoza ran for mayor in 2019. She did not make the runoff. You know, she was not one of the top 2 vote getters because no one got over 50%. Please name the candidates, or as many of those candidates as you can, from 2019. And back in those days, we were constantly talking about them, and some of them were on our show. So go ahead.
We called it the
2019 Chicago Mayoral Candidate Quiz.
Yes, we did. And we gave it to poor David Ferris. Haven't it? We love you, David.
National politics, David.
Yeah, stick to national. All right, go ahead, D. No cheating. Don't look at your phone. Go ahead. Name the candidates.
By the way, David Ferris, Bernie Sanders isn't running for Chicago mayor. My God, he did a horrible job. All right, are you ready?
Yes. Don't cheat. Go.
I won't. Here we go. Neil Salas Griffin, Willie Wilson, Troy.
Wait, who's the last one?
Willie Wilson.
Yeah, go ahead.
Troy LaRaviere.
Nope.
One of the Dailies.
I'll give it to you.
Brother Bill Daily. Ran.
Yes.
Let's see here. We had Chewy Garcia. No,
nope.
He did not run. I'm doing better than Ferris. Just saying. Okay.
Bar's low.
Pam Joravsky or Pam Fox.
You give up?
I give up. Yeah.
All right. Lori Lightfoot.
Oh yeah.
Tony
won the damn thing.
William Daley. Willie Wilson. Susanna Mendoza. I believe you voted for Willie. I actually don't believe you voted in that election because you were moving or something like that. Amara Enya. Remember Amara? Amara Enya. Jerry Joyce, who would not come on our show. Remember that?
Gary Joyce, yeah.
Gary Joyce. Gary Chico.
Oh, the guy who sounded like the guy from Levy, Eugene Levy.
Yes. Yes. He sounded so much like Eugene Levy. Paul Vallis. The man I affectionately called Big Mac. LaShawn Ford came on the show. Bob Fioretti came on the show. John Kotzlar, that's a kid out of Bridgeport. Neil Sells Griffin came on the show. And that's it. Those are the candidates.
That was my first one I said, Neil Sells Griffin.
Yeah, I give you credit for remembering. I loved him. He's a great guy. Maybe we'd have a lot better off had we elected him. So anyway.
All right. Now when it comes to me, I've realized something here in living in Chicago and how these mayoral elections work. I'm going to throw out something there in picking your next candidate here. And with each of these candidates, I think we're going to do this. We're going to do a little thing that I call PHF. All right. The PHF, the post-hate factor of Susanna Mendoza. I think this is something that Chicagoans should really consider based on how history works here. Because I've noticed that these mayors, as soon as they realize, oh, wait, nothing is changing at all, everything's going to be exactly the same. As soon as you realize nothing is changing at all, who can you live with hating more or better, I guess? That's the post-hate factor of all these candidates. That's what I say we should look for here in voting for a Chicago mayor.
Well, along those lines, I like Susanna Mendoza. She was a great guest, and she handled all our gags with she had a good sense of humor, and I also like how she stood up for her brother. And she came on the show. Dee, this is after you weren't producing at the time. She came on the show to talk about her brother, a police officer, and how she felt Mayor Lori Lightfoot was punishing her brother because he was supportive of her. It had to do with a pension matter or disability. Can't remember the details. So I appreciated how she stood up for her brother. So on a lot of levels, I like Susanna Mendoza. So if she's Mayor Mendoza, here's how I view it. Like what you call post-hate factor, I call picture at O'Hare factor. So when I walk in O'Hare and take a plane, usually to Cali, visit my kids, I see that picture on the wall. Does that irritate me? When Ron was mayor, it irritated me. Ron irritated. Just seeing his mug, that little smirking mug of his, irritated me. When Harold was the mayor, and I was filled with pride. That was my mayor. And I kind of like Lori and Brandon. I was cool with them up there. I didn't support everything Lori Lightfoot did, but she's pretty cool, And then you hear, I don't know if you've been to O'Hare lately, but they play over and over the mayor. Welcome to Chicago. I am Mayor. Yeah, and you hear that going on, and when Rom, welcome to Mayor. I'm Mayor Rom. I'm smart. You're not.
Hey, dummies, welcome to the airport.
Yeah.
Hope you find your right flight you're going on. Good luck, dummy.
So if it's Mayor Susanna Mendoza's picture, I will not be upset. I go, I knew her back when. So there you go, D. That's my factor. Okay.
Well, there you go. Well, I've done the math. I crunched the numbers. Susanna Mendoza has a post-hate factor of 64%.
Whoa. Not sure I know what that means.
I don't know. It seems like that everybody hates the mayor as soon as they realize nothing is going to change. And about 3 months into it, they hate the mayor. So who can you love? Who can you live with hating, I guess, would be what you need to look at in this election.
Yeah. By the way, I would have been able to follow the post-hate factor, but I was busy looking at my cell phone, so I wasn't able to follow.
That's fine. I just see a lot of people going, "Oh, who's this controller lady? What, you think she knows more than me? Oh yeah, well I bet I can beat her. Think she could beat me in soccer?" So I think
you ain't beat her. Remember, she ran for controller. She used the soccer in her commercials.
Yeah.
You recall, she used footage of herself playing soccer.
A post-hate factor of 64%. Let us know what you think the post-hate factor is.
I could tell you this: a good friend of this show, Adolfo Mondragon. He's like 99% post-hate factor when it comes to, because he were on the opposite side of all those fights with her back then. And he's like my mom. May she rest in peace. A grudge is held forever. Love you, El Dragon. You know I love you.
But hey, guys, that is our Oh, What a Week for this week. If you got any questions, concerns, you want to make a comment, you want to, I don't know, give us some money or something, I don't know, Benny J Show at gmail.com. BENNY, the letter J, show at gmail.com. Turns out that's how you can find us on social media as well. All right. Facebook, Instagram, are we on TikTok? I don't know. Twitter, X, whatever the hell you call it. Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. Find us, reach out, send us a message, send us a joke or money, anything. Doesn't matter. Benny J Show at gmail.com and BENNY, the letter J Show on social media.
Yes, love that. You could donate to the Benny J Show. You could donate to Ben Joravsky Show and make sure my producers get paid. Want to thank you very much, D, and point out that you're the man, you're the myth, you're the legend, you're the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, even if you deny you're from Alton, Illinois these days. And as such, I want you to give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. Peace and love, everybody.